I'm joined in studio tonight by Professor Caroline Omolando, the Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of Academic Affairs at the Open University of Kenya, as well as Samuel Otieno, the Director of Advocacy and Partnerships at Zizi Afrique Foundation. Lady and gentlemen, thank you for joining me tonight. Very quickly, Prof, if I can begin with you, we'll come back to talk about a couple of things we've seen during today's results, but TVETs have been spoken quite a lot. How important are they in the academic system in this country?
Thank you so much for that question. It is important from an educational point of view to appreciate the fact that when you have a group of learners taking their education at one go, not all of them have the same abilities, and because of that, you're definitely going to have students performing at different levels, and therefore, when we talk about the TVETs and those who have performed at a certain level, in this particular case, in our contest, we are talking about a C+ and below. Right. Those are the students who will take up those positions, because then that is their level of performance. And then they are able to take up courses and probably trainings that would match their level of abilities.
All right.
Yeah.
Mr. Otieno, university education has been cited or lauded as the be or end all of everything in terms of academics. Is this changing, in your opinion?
Well, thank you very much, Ben, and Happy New Year to our viewers. I think this question can be answered against the backdrop of the trends that we are seeing in terms of the future of work as it is right now. And there are statistics that point to the fact that about 64% of children who are enrolling in school now might not necessarily work in any of the professions that we already know. Right. And you look at that one against now the percentage of the students who scored C, below D+ and below, and you begin to see that there is a trend and there is something that really needs urgent attention, because you're basically having just about maybe a third of these candidates who qualify for the university. So the question is, how do we come up with a system that has something for everyone, and a system that creates opportunities for those who might not be necessarily cognitively gifted to go to the universities? So the universities are still extremely important, but there needs also to be a place for diversity and a place for people to be able to have spaces and opportunities in life.
All right.
Through other things.
All right, hold that thought. We shall come back later to speak about this and other issues that we've seen today during the release of the 2024 KCSE examination results. You're watching NTV tonight. Time for a quick commercial break. Don't go too far. We are back shortly. Congratulations to the KCSE class of 2024, and we wish them the very best in their academic future. And now joining me in studio back again is Samuel Otieno, Director of Advocacy and Partnerships at Zizi Afrique Foundation, as well as Professor Caroline Omolando, the Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of Academic Affairs at the Open University of Kenya. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me. Again, we try to cover as much as we can. There's a lot to discuss when the KCSE results are announced. They're a big thing in this country. We've seen the celebrations across the country. And let's talk about some of that. Let me start with you, Mr. Otieno. The number of A's, which is something every school talks about. We had one of the teachers saying this is the first A plane in 16 years. It was a big thing for them, and that has been the case. But generally, the number of airplanes rose this year by 447. What are your thoughts on this?
Okay. Thank you, Ben. I think one, that's good news that we have more A's. But I think in terms of looking at these results in the entirety, you basically don't have to look at the absolute numbers, which is 447 new A's. If you look at it in terms of the percentage, looking at the candidature, then it's very minimal. The increase is very minimal, because I think we are at 0.18% having gotten A's against 0.14% last year. But having said that, I think there was a fundamental improvement in terms of the grading system, the one that considers mathematics and then the top language subjects, and then the others, which I think is a good thing, because it then provides room for most of the students to be able to leverage their strengths rather than the past system that boxed them into the so-called compulsory subjects. So I think it's good that the numbers in actual terms are up, a small percentage, but I think it's a progressive kind of achievement, because then the grading system is helping our children, come out much better.
On the issue of A's and that battle, and also the new grading system.
Yeah, thank you so much. When we think about the new grading system, for me, as an educationist and as a parent, and just as a general member of the society, I believe that one should not be defined by a grade they get because of an exam they took just over a very short period of time, yet they have spent so many years in school. For example, high school, we are talking about 4 years, and you want to measure me against just an exam I take in about 3 weeks. There's so much more that can define a person. And that is why we say the circumstances under which somebody takes an exam, and there's so many other things that may happen externally and internally around this person, will determine how they perform. And therefore, the fact that we may have a certain number of students who score A's, it is good. We appreciate those. It means they have a certain capacity, certain capabilities that under certain pressure, they are able to get that grade. But at the same time, we should also be able to appreciate those who score the other grades, because then that is what they were able to get at that particular time, and then they can move up and say, this is what I get. But besides that, I would also want to say, given the new grading system, I think it also provides our students to also have a raised self-esteem. We know how it is when results are being announced or are going to be announced. There are those actually who keep off from everybody because they know they probably have scored a low grade and they will be defined by that grade. And so when we have more students getting higher grades, because then we are able to pick on what they performed better in, I think it's a good thing for our children. Right. Then even the cases of suicide, now that we even have had one of the news items talking about suicide, we've had young children. What would a 14-year-old child know about suicide? What would a 19-year-old, 20-year-old child know about suicide? But it's because of those circumstances that come around how they are defined. So I think it's a good thing that we have that.
So, from where you sit, why is the new grading system better?
One, I think the idea is that, with the coming of the competence-based curriculum, we are having a major shift towards having an education system that has something for everyone. And that is fundamental in many ways, because our system has been so discriminatory. So it's such that our national examinations have not been necessarily to gauge what you know, but it has always been an elimination kind of formula, so get people sit an exam for a few days and then decide who goes to the university and who remains. And so what this system is trying to do is in many ways trying to amplify the bit around the different and the varied strengths that children or students, for that matter, would have in a classroom. And there's been a big debate, even within the 844 system, where we had the so-called compulsory subjects, and a lot of the times they defined the mini grade that you get. So I think it's a move in the right direction. Of course, they are not candidates who sat the examinations within the context of CBC, but what it does is that it has provided an opportunity for students to benefit from their strengths and be able to get a generally good, better mini grade that then again now opens for them opportunities in the next stage of their lives. And I think that is something that really needs to be encouraged.
Now, one of our top stories, and it's one of our the angles of today's coverage that we took, is looking at what looks like blatant inequality in terms of, now again back to the A's, the top performers, how they're distributed. So from that data is that 81% of A-plane scorers came from national schools. Very few came from the county and sub-county schools. 0.5% only coming from sub-county schools. Bringing out the issue, Prof, of these students receive equal opportunities when they go to these various schools, county schools. Do they have the same facilities, same classrooms, same laboratories, teachers, all this? Do you agree that it points to a kind of inequality with the different levels of schools?
Yeah, I think we must appreciate the fact that not all schools are endowed in the same manner when we think about resources that are available within these schools. By virtue of these schools being either a national school, an extra county school, up to the very low levels, yeah? And of course, the whole story of private schools also comes in, where we talk about private schools also being well endowed with resources. We also must pay attention to the fact that at selection point, as these students graduate from the primary school level into secondary school level, the grade you get at primary school level also has a very high determinant on the nature of school you are also placed in at secondary school level. And for me, having also had an experience of working at high school level as a high school teacher, that actually brings in a lot of, what would I say? It also creates a situation where we may be able to understand why students who get into national schools have the ability of performing a little higher than those who don't perform, because those in national schools are selected from around the country, countrywide, and those who have the high scores. That would be one determinant. But besides that, and putting that aside, we also have to appreciate there are those who still go to these county schools and maybe the extra county schools who have low grades, but still turn out with a very high grade at the end of Form 4. So what does that also mean? That we can't also peg entirely the whole concept of high performance to resources. The effort a student puts into it also plays a lot of role in helping me as a student getting the grade that I get. So a balance has to be created between that.
Then comes the question of, and I'll come to you, Mr. Otieno, of the private schools, which are very well endowed in terms of facilities, but we don't see them much when the KCSE results come out. But just hold that thought. We take a quick commercial break, pay a couple of bills here on NTV tonight. We're coming back as we try to make sense of the 2024 KCSE results. Stay with us.